And welcome back everybody to another episode of All the Mods 10, and in today's episode we are going to be automating the gene extraction method so that we can get some netherite genes to mix it with a honey treat and an egg to get these ancient bee spawn eggs so that we can put it in a productive metalworks casting thing so that we can turn it into the AllTheModium, vibranium, and unobtainium spawn eggs so we can get those bees and start producing those materials. So, in between episodes, I did build a nice little area over there, and I was testing different ways of trying to automate the way we turn diamond bees into netherite bees or ancient bees, whatever you want to call them. They're the same thing, they produce the same stuff. Well, at least that's how I see it. But as I was messing around, you can see this very primitive setup. Of course I say primitive because it is not connected to the ME system, but we'll be taking it all apart and reassembling it into something that's a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I did mess around with modular routers, as I said I was going to get this to work. And so far, it looks like it did work. So here we are using a pulsed modular router that will be right-clicking with netherite. And here we have an activator module that has been set to right-click an entity. And it is just on the front, nothing else. So this is how you set this one up. I'm just going over it right now just because later I might forget how to put it and I could always come back for reference. And then here we have another modular router. This one's just always working, no redstone needed. This one, it is set to sneak right click and it is looking level and it's looking down just because it is up here. So this is, whoops, wrong one right there. So this is the one that we are going to be using to spawn in the diamond bees. Of course, you could always set it to the side, up, whatever. It just depends on where you are putting your modular routers. But since I got it to work like this, I will probably do it like this again. So now that I have explained how this is working, I am going to take this all apart and then we are going to get started. Little FYI, what we are using for the redstone pulses is this create pulse timer. Of course, you could always just come over here, click on timer, and as you can see, you have a few options, whether it is the redstone engineering, the create pulse timer, or the RF tools one. I used to use the RF tools, however, since create's been added, I feel more familiar with it, and that's the reason why I am using it. But yeah, just like that. Kind of explain the setup. One thing that I forgot to mention last episode that we should have talked about is setting up one of these bee farms. So here we have an advanced oak beehive with an oak expansion box, just so that we could store more bees. Originally, with just the advanced hive, you get 3, but with the expansion, you get 2 more slots. So in here, we have a total of 5 draconic bees, and we put a little simulator upgrade so they don't have to be flying around, and we put 3 speed upgrades so that they could produce materials faster. The reason why we put a simulator upgrade is because I don't want them flying around. Who knows what might happen to them, but all you have to do is put a feeding slab directly in front of it. It is 1 block below, but since it is connected, they are able to use whatever's in here for their pollination purposes to bring back and produce material. I have been running this basically all day long, and while I was editing, doing my project, whatever the case may be, I'd come back and use the time on in between just so I could speed this up, and I have gathered a lot of draconic honeycombs. These are going to be playing a big role just because this is going to get us these draconic chunks, which we are going to be, well, dust that we're going to turn into chunks, my apologies, and it's going to be made into this block upgrade, which is going to help because if these bees are producing blocks, that's going to be producing 4 combs instead of 1, and will be outputting more material at a time, which we could also use these chunks to produce these other upgrades. So the best one that we want to get to produce is this Omega one. But that is going to require a ton of materials, and we are not at the level where we can produce it. One thing that we are going to do in the next episode that I'm hinting at right now is we are going to upgrade our bee farm, and how we are going to do that is through the materials we farm, of course, but we are also going to get into industrial souls. So we are going to be soul surging these beef hives, which I believe is still a viable option, and that's going to help us increase productivity a ton. So let's actually get into this instead of just talking 24/7. And just like that, let's begin. Alright guys, and we are back after a lot of tinkering and messing around. I have finally got this to work how I want it. So, some things we did change. Sender module, not needed. However, I'm just going to leave it there just because I already configured it. So, what's happening is this modular router is picking up the netherite bee. It is dropping the bee, to which this item collector from Just Dire Things has been set to pick up in a radius of basically this whole area. I put allow list and I set it to the ancient bee cage. So this will only pick up the bee cage, which will be inserted in here, which this will spawn it in that little area. So now instead of just having a lever that's always on, for some reason, it used to work where it would just automatically crush the bees, but maybe because I'm using glass, or I don't know why, but I just put this pulse timer so that it'll turn on the piston every time and hold it there for a little while so it does have time to crush the bee. The way you get this thing to operate differently from this is you just right click the side and it'll change it from only pulsing to turn off every time you hit the specified time limit. So here it's turning on and then off. Here it is always on and then will turn off. This will create that little delay needed to crush the bee so that we can get the genetic or the crushed bee material, to which I don't know why, but this pipe is not moving it. I think that's because we have this set to always fill that up with glass bottles. I think that's why it's not turning it into the bottle and sending it through the pipe. So the workaround for that is that I created another item collector in that has this area under its control or within its reach. And then I set the squash bee material here. I put allow list so it'll only pick up the bottles, just because I don't know how fast this will be, and it kind of takes a little while to get all the material out of here and over here. So it'll store the bottles in here, it'll move the bottle in, and then as soon as it's done, this will move stuff and it will insert the next one. There is a byproduct in AllTheMods 10, which there isn't in AllTheMods 9, and that's because we have the bubble zone. And that's because we have the bumble zone in this mod pack, which allows you to save the bees. So, or when you kill a bee by accident or on purpose, they will drop the stinger, to which if you accidentally hit a bee, it can sting you and you know that you get poisoned, and after a while those bees usually pass away. However, with the stingers, if you have some on you, you can always put it back onto the bee, which saves them. And so the byproduct of these bees getting terminated is dropping the stinger, so I set another item collector to specifically pick up the stinger. So is it a lot of work setting all this up? Yes. Does it work? So far, it has. The material has been getting in here. This has been reorganizing it slash turning it into the genes that we need, to which I can always just come over here, look for it, and just like that, we have some productive bees netherite gene samples. This is, let's see if I could find the gene. Perfect. I already picked one up earlier, but if you get one of these and you put a treat next to it, you can turn it into this netherite honey treat. This is very important just because you can come over here and then you put this down here with an egg. Oh, we got to give it a little bit of power first. Well, I forgot about that. So we'll just bring it over like that. Who cares about good looks? It is done and gone. And if we come over here and we put ancient bee, just like that, we now have the spawn egg. Now this is what we are going to need to create our little AllTheModium bee spawn egg. And as you can see, we are going to need to set up the foundry. So with regards to this, I will go over it one more time, trying to be as detailed as possible. We will build the foundry, we will make our first AllTheModium bee, and then we'll call it an episode. Next episode we'll go into the hostile neural networks and into industrial foregoing souls, just because this has basically burnt my brain out. I have been going crazy trying to get this to work. So this, not needed. Let's get rid of that. So ME system, we are connected to the quantum ring. We are using dense cables all around. The only time we aren't using them is whenever we do have an import or export bus, which is connected to an ME smart cable. The first step in this entire process is to automate bees being produced. To do so, I did put a bee cage and a poppy right here in this ME export bus. I did set the scheduling mode to round robin. I did put a crafting card, so whichever one of these can be crafted will be crafted. If you put a crafting card, remember that you do have to go to your ME system, create a pattern for said thing that you want crafted. So with this, it'll automatically keep this full and this slot full. So here we can just come up here, toss the two bees in, and it's going to be producing diamond bees. This will then be exported through this logical pipe over here, to which it'll get the child bee, mix it with the honey treat, and turn it into the adult, which will then be pulled and sent into the barrel. This barrel is used to stockpile them, just in case we produce them too fast for the system, or for that modular router to hold them, which will then be pulled and sent over here, to which we already talked about it, but this is spawning the diamond bee. This one is turning the diamond bee into the ancient bee. This is capturing the ancient bee. The ancient bee spawn egg, or the ancient bee cage, will then be picked up by this item collector. Okay, I don't know why I'm collecting that stuff. Let's toss that down. But that ancient bee cage is being collected and being put into here, which will spawn the ancient bee, which this piston will go on and crush it, leaving us with the genetic material and stingers, to which the genetic material, or the bottle, will be put in here to get turned into the gene samples, and then the samples will be sent into this indexer, which the indexer will be powered by this pulse timer to produce us our netherite gene samples, which we will be extracting manually, crafting into that honey treat gene sample together, and be mixed together with this egg to create our netherite bee spawn egg. Okay, with that, I'm gonna work out some kinks. If, as earlier as you saw, when we have these different genes that don't match, we can always just come back over here, mess around with the redstone tick settings, and make sure this is all done. So I will be back when this is all done. Alright guys, so the issue was that the ME system had 2000 honey treats, which was making this insanely fast, and that was the reason why things got messed up. There was way too many bees for the modular routers to keep up, and at some point it was just not working anymore. So after clearing that mess out, this is back to functioning properly, and as you can see, we are getting our samples just like before, and this is moving everything nicely. Alright, and we are back. One thing that I haven't mentioned is you are going to want to create a little system where you can use a powered centrifuge to melt down the honeycomb to get the draconic dust. I won't be covering that this episode just because I do want to get into the productive metalworks and show you guys how to make the AllTheModium B, but an easy setup would be to connect this with a storage bus, make another little powered centrifuge, put it down, have the system export the honeycomb into the centrifuge, and then use the import to take all the drops and insert it back into the system. That'd be probably one of the best ways to do it, and since you are automating this process, one of the best ways to store materials of anything that's being created non-stop is to put it into a storage drawer, which if we go back to base, we have plenty of available slots to put more materials, so I'd recommend to do that. But for right now, I do want to get into this foundry just so I can show you guys how we are going to make it. So if you ever played Tinker's Construct, you already know how to set this up. So I'm going to leave about a 3-block gap and then one for the ring. So right here, we're going to be making basically a normal Tinker's Construct of smeltery. So you're just going to be putting down these liquid heating coils. That's one of the differences, is these guys will be accepting liquid to melt whatever is in your smelter. Then you're going to create your normal ring like usual. So here we're just going to put down some of these bricks. I am going to mine, whoops, I didn't mean to mine all of them. But right here in this corner, we are going to put the drain, just because the cool thing about the drain is it can be used on any of the sides that are available. Here we're going to put the little tap, and we're going to put the casting table right here. If you are going to use this to double your ores, you are going to need a little cast here to make your ores go into ingots or whatever the case may be. So we do have a controller and some tanks, so we're going to put our tank, controller in the center, and then another tank. Here I do have some lava. However, if we are going to be smelting AllTheModium, we are going to need soul lava. So I am going to have to make a quick trip to the other to collect some of that if I don't have some already, which luckily enough we do. So that's going to help us a little bit. But then right here, all you have to do is finish off the forge, mine the 1 block in the center, and just like that, it has been made. And you know it's working properly when you do see this and all these blocks light up. Alright, and so once you build your foundry and you put your tanks with soul lava, you can see that the temperature's at 3000, and for each ingot that you put, it's going to use a bucket. So we'll put 4 in, just like that. We'll get our molten AllTheModium, and then from here we just put down our ancient beast spawn egg, right click on this, and after this cools down, we will have our AllTheModium beast spawn egg. And just like that, we will now be able to spawn it in, put it into one of these beehives and start collecting AllTheModium combs, which then can be put in a centrifuge to produce the AllTheModium nuggets, and then we could just tell the system to automatically craft it into bars or ingots, and then we can use it whenever we want. And just like that, we have completed making AllTheModium bees. Of course, you could always put this guy back in, get some vibranium, line this with some vibranium, turn it into that, and then turn it into unobtainium. And that's how we do this in the current version. I don't think there's any other way to make the AllTheModium bee. I know before you can combine the AllTheModium bee with a withered and an ancient bee. I'm pretty sure that was how you'd breed them. However, for some reason, when I did try it, the recipe doesn't work. So I don't know if there's an issue on my end or if they changed the recipe and they just haven't changed the quest book. But this is how you can obtain this bee. So yeah, after working like crazy, getting this all set up, we have finally done what we wanted to this episode. And so, next episode, we will get into industrial foregoing souls, just so that we can start soul surging some of these beehives, so we can start producing a ton of materials really quickly. We will probably get into hostile neural networks, just so we can automate the piglet hearts and some nether stars. Maybe set up a few other models just so we could get some extra materials, set that to our ME system, and then we'll call that a day. So, with this craziness, I hope this setup somewhat makes sense. If you guys do want me to go over it one more time, a little more in depth, I am more than open to doing that on the side. So just let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you're confused, go ahead and ask questions. I'll try to answer it. And if there's quite a few of you guys needing more information about it, just put it down. I don't mind making another video that goes a little more in depth. I'll be able to do it in creative on a different world. So that'll make this process a little bit easier. If you guys have any suggestions or feedback about what we're doing and our progress and what's next to come, let me know down there. If you have any information that might help us or help others, do put it down there, because who knows, it might help me, it might help somebody that might be watching the video. So don't forget to do that. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, peace.